Often in emergency situations, it may not be safe to drink the tap water. So here's a few things you can do. I'll take a jar and fill it up with the tap water. If it's cloudy, you can filter it. Just let that sediment sink to the bottom. You can grab any kind of clean kitchen towel. You can even do this with a coffee filter. If you have something like a pour over maker, you can filter this and pour this into your pot. And make sure to not get any of the sediment that may be left in the bottom. If you are running your tap and it's coming out a little murky, try to let it run for a few minutes and see if it starts to run clear. You want to start off with the clearest water you can find. This will help remove some of that larger debris. Boiling is one of the simplest and easy ways to make sure you have clean drinking water in an emergency scenario. So you're just going to put this on the stove over heat. That's if you have power, or maybe you have a gas stove that'll work without power. If severe weather is approaching and you are preparing for the potential loss of power, or that you may not have access to clean drinking water, what I would do is prepare yourself with a camp stove, a butane burner, so you have a way to heat up water if necessary. When you boil that water, you're looking for a rapid boil, not just tiny bubbles. You want it boiling hot. And then once it starts boiling, you'll boil it for at least 2 minutes. Some recommend a minute up to 3 minutes, but 2 minutes is a good sweet spot. Now you'll want to boil it longer if you live at a higher elevation. Boiling temperatures change as elevations increase, so you'll want to bring it to a boil and then boil it for at least 3 minutes. After boiling for 2 minutes to 3 minutes, depending on where you live, you can just let this cool to room temperature and then store it. Easy way to store your water is in a mason jar. Now you want to be really careful. Make sure your mason jars are clean or your container is clean. What's great about water, you can store it at room temperature. Just keep this somewhere safe, and then you'll have a portion of clean drinking water. With this method, sanitation is a matter of temperature and time. If you're in a region where an incoming storm or disaster is about to strike, finding access to bottled water may be difficult. But while the drinking water is still good to consume, find all of the closed lid water bottles you can find. Go ahead and fill those up with that good water before the disaster strikes, before an emergency situation comes your way. That way you already are prepared with some bottled, clean, good drinking water in advance. If your containers have been sitting for a while on this shelf, it may be a good idea just to give these a quick clean with soap and water to make sure they're clean and fresh before you add water to them. Another great resource in any emergency situation is if you're someone who has camping supplies, outdoor tailgating supplies. Those are going to be perfect in emergency situations, especially when it comes to water. So I usually fill these up with water when I'm camping. These are going to be great in an emergency situation as well. So beforehand, go to one of those water centers, fill this up with water. Even grocery stores have those water fillers, or you can even buy the larger version of these BPA-free plastic containers to fill water up with. It's a great way to store a lot of water really affordably, either from home or a water refill center. Make sure these are clean inside, soap and water. Make sure they're really well rinsed out before any kind of coming emergency. And that way you can fill them up and have access to nice, fresh drinking water. A common thing you might hear is to fill a bathtub up with water. Bathtubs can be a little unreliable. Maybe that drain doesn't hold water quite so well, so you may come back in a day or two and you're left with half as much water, or it's empty just because that drain isn't plugged up quite tight. Double check those drains if you're going to use the bathtub method well in advance to make sure your bathtub can hold water. Or what I like to do is just get some coolers and fill those up. Make sure they're clean on the inside, make sure they're rinsed off really well, and then you can fill that up with water, and it'll hold that water for a lot longer in a much safer way than just having a bathtub filled up. Bathtub is a great secondary resource to reserve some water if you don't have other larger containers. Maybe you live in a smaller house like an apartment, so you can go ahead and use that method. Just make sure that drain doesn't allow any water to escape, that we can retain as much water as you can. You can also consider things like garbage bins or storage tubs, anything that can hold water safe and clean. Just as a point of convenience, you probably want to store water in something that has a lid. Try to avoid just filling up mixing bowls or Tupperware. You want something with a large capacity that's convenient and something that can have a sealed lid. It's really best to stay informed. Check with your local water district. They may issue a boil notice for the water, especially in emergency situations. So that's when you'll want to use this method with your tap water. If your water district does have a boil water advisory, you'll want to be sure to not use that tap water to feed your pets, to brush your teeth with. There are some cases where you can shower. I would just take the extra precaution and do the boil water method and use that boiled water or clean water you've stored for any water needs. Let this cool completely and you can keep that water stored in a safe place. Water advisories can also mean you shouldn't use your ice maker or any fridge water as well. So just stick to purified water or water that you know is safe and clean.